Good morning.
Good morning.
There was an alarm clock that I wanted from Best Buy when I was little, and it was a chicken with a guitar, and it would go, wow, yeah, hey baby, wake up, come and dance with me, wow, yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone. Good morning. I'm Jenn Vega. I'm a chef in Brooklyn, and you might recognize me as the caterer for the Tank Galas. I'm also on the Tank board. I want to thank you for being part of our organization and helping us support thousands of amazing artists through the COVID pandemic. Amazing artists! Yes, you. Breakfast.
Breakfast.
It is the first meal of the day. Some argue that it's the most important meal of the day. I'm the kind of person that actually doesn't like a lot of breakfast foods in the morning. I love breakfast foods at night. Is that weird? Because I don't like to waste food, I tend to have leftovers for breakfast. And so that means pizza, chili, Chinese takeout. Pretty much everything that's in my fridge is up for grabs for breakfast. I guess I'm just used to eating all kinds of food at all kinds of hours of the day, but for some reason my mental block, I don't prefer breakfast foods during breakfast. I don't get me either, man. I don't get me. Let's look at these questions that we got from the Tank community. We asked the Tank community if they had any cooking questions, and I'll also share a couple tips to better breakfasts. Paige asked, how important is the sourcing of ingredients in how a dish tastes? Thanks, Paige, for your question, and it's a big one. Let's just talk about some common breakfast items like eggs, bacon, and bread. In my experience, fresher local ingredients tend to taste better and make me feel better. An egg that has traveled 20 miles from farm to my fridge will not pick up as much odors and is less likely to come into contact with contaminants than eggs that were laid in crowded factory farms and trucked hundreds of miles to a grocery store. But, if my wallet were making this decision, my wallet would choose the more cost-effective egg from a chain grocery store. So, artisanal food is lovely and nice to have, but not always affordable. My diet is a hybrid of affordable pantry items like grains, beans, and preserved foods, and let's be honest, lots of dry ramen. I try to support my local farmers market so they can stay in business. When it comes to bacon, it can get pretty pricey per pound at a specialty meat shop and at the farmer's market. What you're paying for is a small batch where there is more care and a level of quality control over the product. With the eggs, I spoke about distance, but with meats, they can survive a little bit longer when they are cured. So internationally cured meats are great if you can trace its source. And it doesn't really apply much to breakfast bacon, but to higher ticket items like prosciutto, jamon, and jambon. And finally, bread. There's really nothing like a freshly baked loaf of bread. If you've embarked on this adventure during quarantine, then you know how long it takes to proof and bake a loaf on your own. And what's a closer source than your own home? Freshly baked bread is really good, but starts to get stale about 2 or 3 days in. And the same goes for that fancy loaf from the farmer's market or local bakery. The factory-made pre-sliced breads last longer because they have preservatives that make it behave, less like bread. When it's pre-sliced, it's convenient. I can just go ahead and make a sandwich. But pre-slicing introduces way more surface area and exposes the material to air and our enemy, mold. Our enemy.
Mine enemy, mold.
When I can get a nice loaf of bread, I prefer to slice it myself. So when it comes to sourcing the food you put in your body, there's a give and take. Hopefully you can find that balance between affordability, taste, and supporting your local environment. We have a question from Noah. Let's see here. Extremely spicy breakfast. A good pick-me-up or a day ruiner? Do you have any spicy breakfast recipes? How spicy are we talking, Noah? Noah says, like 4 wings into hot ones. Okay. Looking at the last season of Hot Ones, this is a 4 out of 10 on the spiciness scale. That's a heavy dose of cayenne pepper. You're talking to someone who loves spicy food. One of my favorite drinks is called a prairie fire. You know what that is? It's a shot of tequila with a few drops of hot sauce in it. One time I got to judge a hot sauce contest and I walked out of there euphoric. Like I was tripping out. Tripping out.
Being out.
If you're into spice, then a little bit in the morning won't hurt you. In fact, I think the capsaicin wakes me up. I have a friend who drinks orange juice shots with a point of cayenne pepper. A point, if you don't know, is a French measurement, like the amount that will fit on the point of a knife. However, if you have a sensitive constitution and can't handle spice well, don't go dousing your eggs in ghost pepper to wake up in the morning. If you can handle spice, I still wouldn't venture into extremely hot territory like straight ghost pepper or X pepper because breakfast is the first meal of the day. Hot sauce will hit your empty stomach. And well, it's not quite empty, it's full of stomach acid. And if you pour coffee on top of that, that's triple the acid, which may lead to some pretty intense heartburn or other direction unpleasantness. As far as spicy breakfast recipes go, here are a few ideas on how I'd incorporate more hot sauce. Add extra hot sauce to your Bloody Marys, or on the more savory side, a bull shot, which is made with beef bouillon. Try out shakshuka, which is eggs baked in a spicy tomato sauce, and try it in huevos rancheros. Extra salsa. Beans on toast, avocado toast, breakfast tacos, and a simple bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich can handle a little bit more fire. And did you know that pho, the Vietnamese noodle soup, is generally eaten for breakfast? Toss in a couple freshly sliced jalapeno peppers and you'll be good to go. That'll wake you up, right? Yeah. Okay, we have a question from Robert. Is it okay to mix in a little cream when scrambling eggs? Oh, yeah, it is. Totally okay. When I was growing up, my mom and dad mixed in a little milk for our scrambled eggs. I didn't know it at the time, but it was stretching it out a little bit more to feed all of us. Milk doesn't have a ton of fat, but the whipping does make it a little softer in texture. It wasn't until I worked in a restaurant where we pre-mixed the eggs with heavy cream. The difference here is that cream has much more fat and is able to whip up and introduce more air into the eggs, so the texture becomes quite luxurious when you cook them. I've also seen Gordon Ramsay's slow scrambled eggs with a lot of butter, and then fold in a spoonful of creme fraiche at the end. It's a lot like sour cream, but thicker and doesn't curdle when you heat it up. Okay, we got one more question from Thomas. If money and time were no object, how would you make a perfect breakfast sandwich? I'd think about this. Let me be honest here. I order a lot of my breakfast sandwiches from bodegas. I love a griddled bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll, wrapped in foil so that the American cheese slice gets perfectly melted onto the egg. And just one egg, too. I think 2 eggs is too much on a roll. Yeah, I just think the best sandwiches, at least in my case, are made for me. I make sandwiches all day, and it's kind of like I see them all the time, and it's kind of not the same when you're making it for yourself. So if I ever do go outside, I will go to my finest Brooklyn bodega and order a bacon, egg, and cheese. So for a perfect bodega sandwich, if you are going to embark on this at home, for the authentic experience, you need a roll, thin cut bacon cooked to a crisp, a scrambled egg cooked in the bacon fat, and authenticity, the square slice of American cheese, the one that comes individually wrapped, a Kraft single. I don't know what it is about those. I love them. I would say my spectrum of taste goes from artisanal to dollar store. And I feel like as a person who appreciates food, you can't dismiss those things. I mean, they still taste good to me, at least. I've never had a bad experience with single slices of cheese. I don't know. I guess it's a nostalgic thing for me. You might think it's gross. Yes, because it's a product from a factory, but I don't know. It's just somebody made me a sandwich, and it just makes me really happy. Okay, but for real, if I did have to cook for myself, and I do most of the time, I will defer to an easy toast because I'm not a morning person and I want it to be as easy and as quick as possible. And one of my favorite toasts is pa a tomaquet or pan con tomate or tomato toast from Spain. Yes. I learned about this dish when I traveled to Barcelona. Barcelona. Okay, so how do you make a tomato toast? You take a crusty bread, like a baguette, cut it into thirds and then lengthwise, so you have a long, flat piece. You toast that very briefly. You take a garlic clove, cut that in half, and rub the cut side of the garlic onto the rough face of the toasted bread, like this. And then you literally smash really ripe tomatoes onto the bread. And then finish it with some Spanish olive oil and flaky Maldon salt. And that is probably one of the easiest and one of my favorite toasts to make in the morning. I love the raw garlic because it stings. And I don't mean that in like a torturous way. I do like the spiciness of it in the morning. I mean, rewind back to 5 minutes ago when I was talking about hot sauce. You're talking to someone who loves spicy food. I just really like the sting of the garlic. It's really fragrant and it wakes me up in the morning. I don't really care that I have garlic breath because really who am I trying to impress right now, alone in my apartment? So if I were to make a sandwich, though, a breakfast sandwich, I would probably try to incorporate tomato toast. You really don't need much more to it, but traditionally, tomato toast is served with manchego cheese or sometimes sliced jamon serrano, which I happen to have in the house because my mom sent me a jamon leg for Christmas. Ta-da! Thanks, Mom. I'd really love to hear about your favorite sandwiches in the morning. What is in your perfect breakfast sandwich? Those are all the questions I got for today, but here are a few more tips to a better breakfast. If you aren't a morning person, prep your ingredients the night before and wrap it up on a sheet pan so you can just pull it out of the fridge in the morning. If you're like me and you can't finish a whole loaf of bread in a week, I store half of it in the freezer right away. And when I defrost it, it toasts up just fine. And when all else fails, put an egg on it. Thanks for joining me. My name is Jenn de Vega, and thanks for watching the Tank Telethon. Woo!